Chapter 91 Crisis in the Cave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was a coincidence for Wu Fan that when he first arrived at the affairs hall, this task had just been posted. Because the situation was urgent, the contribution value given was very high, reaching 1,500 points. When Wu Fan saw this task, he took it on without hesitation. By the time the other top monks found out it was already too late, they all regretted that they had not discovered this task in advance and let Wu Fan take advantage of it. After Wu Fan came to the Xianxia mountains, he didn't know where to find it. He had no choice but to search slowly. Thinking of this, he patted the storage bag and the swift wind sword flew out. Wu Fan jumped to the on top of it, it then turned into silver light and walked towards the depths. At the same time, he also released his spiritual consciousness and spread it to the maximum, hoping to find clues to a few people as soon as possible. At the same time, deep in the Xianxia mountains, there were 3 monks in a huge cave. However, these 3 monks were currently in a very dangerous situation. In order to avoid danger, they were hiding in a gap in the mountain wall. The entrance of the cave was also blocked by 3 people with a huge boulder. 2 corpses could be seen outside the boulder. The 2 corpses were a man and a woman. They were also immortal cultivators. However, the death state was very terrifying, as if they had been killed by something. It was as if all the blood in his body had been sucked dry, his face was pale, and his whole body was shriveled, but the 3 people inside the stone crevice were 2 men and 1 woman, all with the 5th and 6th levels of chi refining. At this time, the 3 people's faces were pale with fear. Each of them also had a talisman attached to their body. Only the name the female cultivator said in panic, "Brother Kong, Brother Yen, when do you think the sect will be able to come? Will we die here?" After a few hours of waiting, those 2 white-haired zombies will come out again. How can this be done? At this time, a man tried to calm down and said, "Junior Sister Lin, don't worry. I have already released the transmission talisman before. Now the sect should send people over. Let's just hold on." But another man stumbled and said, "Back then, we shouldn't have chased that first-level monster into the cave. Now it's fine. The monster was not caught. Young senior brother and junior sister Shen are also dead," that the man from before said with an ugly face. "Junior brother Yen, didn't you agree to come in at the beginning? What's the use of saying this now? The 2 white-haired zombies are not far from the cave outside. We are out again. If we don't go, we can only wait for someone to rescue us. Fortunately, I have a few breath-holding charms with me. Otherwise, the 3 of us would have been sucked dry by those 2 white-haired zombies just like senior brother Yang and junior sister Shen." Junior sister Lin's eyes showed fear and said, "Senior brother Kong, I heard a strange scream deep in the cave yesterday. It shouldn't be the 2 white-haired zombies near the entrance of the cave. I think there should be a more powerful one deep inside. Of zombies." The man named Senior Brother Yen also quickly said, "Yes, Junior Sister Lin is right. Well, I also heard that terrifying scream. That zombie must be more powerful. It may be a green-haired zombie." Senior Brother Kong said with a gloomy face, "Don't scare yourselves, the green-haired zombie is not that easy to form. If there really is such a green-haired zombie, how can we still be alive? I only hope that the sect sends someone to rescue us quickly. Alas. It's a pity that the situation was urgent at that time. I didn't explain the situation in the transmission note, and I don't know what kind of fellow disciples the sect will come to. If a top-level chi refining monk comes, he can still deal with that. 2 white-haired zombies, but if it's just a high-level monk, I'm afraid he's in danger too." Senior brother Yen and junior sister Lin could only lament and remain silent, until half a day passed. At this moment, a roar sound suddenly came from the cave. The sound was terrifying. When the 3 monks heard the roar, their bodies suddenly trembled, and the female cultivator was even more unbearable. In the already narrow stone crevice, she was so frightened that she lost control of her urine. This is not to blame for her timidity. She has only practiced chi at the 5th level, she is only 18 years old, and she has never seen such a terrifying zombie. Especially when she saw the tragic situation when senior brother Yang and senior sister Shen died, she was so frightened that she almost fainted. This made junior sister Lin's face turn red and she moved to the side, while senior brother Kong and senior brother Yan, but there was no time to pay attention to her. At this moment, the huge boulder that the three of them moved to the entrance of the cave suddenly moved, and because of the shaking of the boulder, junior sister Lin actually screamed "Ah" in fright. Senior brother Kong and senior brother Yan heard this cry made me think, it's not good. Sure enough, when junior sister Lin finished shouting, the boulder suddenly began to shake violently and showed signs of being moved away. Senior brother Kong's face suddenly changed and he shouted, "It's broken." Then he saw him coming out of the storage room. A long sword was taken out of the bag. The man named senior brother Yan turned around and glared at junior sister Lin, and then took out a long sword from his storage bag. Junior sister Lin knew that she had done something wrong. Her face turned red, and then turned pale again. She was obviously frightened. At this moment, the boulder suddenly moved aside and revealed the scene outside. At the entrance of the cave, there was standing a humanoid monster with white hair all over its body and white pupils. Its mouth is full of fangs, and it has purple-black nails more than an inch long. It looks quite scary. When the monster saw the three of them, it suddenly roared and rushed towards the three of them, but senior brother Kong shouted with an ugly face. Junior sister Lin used the fireball technique to attack the white-haired zombie, and junior brother Yan used his shield to block it. In front. After brother Kong shouted, he did not stop for a moment and directly controlled the flying sword to attack the white-haired zombie. With a bang, the zombie only retreated a step, but his body was fine. Although brother Kong's flying sword was only a mid-level magic weapon, it could also be seen how hard the white-haired zombie's body was, but brother Yan panicked and released a shield to block the three people, and then released a flying sword to attack the white-haired zombie, but sister Lin's performance was a bit lagging behind. She was now trembling with fear, and her face looked extremely panicked. She tried to pinch the magic formula several times, but in the end she didn't even release a fireball. At this time, another white-haired zombie came to the entrance of the cave. Like the other one, it was also covered with white hair and its mouth was full of fangs. It screamed and flew towards the three people. When the three saw another white-haired zombie coming, their faces turned pale instantly. They knew that today, the three of them would follow in the footsteps of senior brother Yang and junior sister Shen. Junior sister Lin was already squatting on the ground, crying in pain. She had given up resistance. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from outside the cave. "Hey, there are two white-haired zombies here, which is really rare." When senior brother Kong and the other two heard this voice, their eyes suddenly lit up. Junior sister Lin also stopped crying, and senior brother Kong and senior brother Yan showed joy on their faces. The first thought of the three was that someone from the sect had come to save them. Chapter 92, Rescue in the Cave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this time, there was a man standing in the huge cave, wearing a moon-white robe, with a fair face, a gleam in his eyes, thin lips, and very handsome. This man was Wu Fan himself. He had been searching for more than half a day in the depths of the mountains. During this period, he saw this cave. He wanted to fly directly over, but he sensed a wave of spiritual energy at the entrance of the cave, and then flew in at a very fast speed. When he came to the depths of the cave, he saw two white-haired zombies. This was the first time he had seen such a thing. When he was watching some jade slips before, he had read the introduction of white-haired zombies and knew that this white-haired zombie was equivalent to the strength of a top-level cultivator of chi refining, and his body was extremely hard and difficult to kill. He had no emotions, no thoughts, and liked to eat human blood. He was just a walking corpse, but this white-haired zombie also had weaknesses. It was afraid of fire and light. The birth of this zombie is not easy. Its birth conditions are very harsh. It requires a person born in a een year, een month and een time, and died on a een year, een month and een time day, and buried in an extremely een place for dozens or hundreds of years before it can be formed. This white-haired zombie can still be dealt with, but if it turns into a green-haired zombie, only a cultivator in the foundation building period can contend with it. The green-haired zombie has the terrifying strength of a cultivator in the foundation building period, and it is said that there are some more powerful ones, such as flying corpses, demon corpses, fierce corpses, Xianxia, etc. These are even more terrifying and powerful. Among the immortal cultivation sects in Xia country, the corpse refining sect focuses on corpse refining. Their main practice is corpse refining. Basically, every disciple has to refine a corpse for himself. In normal battles, this corpse is their powerful helper. When Wu Fan saw the two white-haired zombies, the corners of his mouth curled up. He thought it was too easy to kill the two zombies. He only needed to release the Mtlnovel extreme fire to burn them to ashes in an instant. However, Wu Fan wanted to test their bodies to see if they were as hard as the legend said. He slapped his storage bag, and the silver moon sword flew out and shot straight at one of the white-haired zombies. With a bang, the zombie was knocked out instantly. When Wu Fan looked closely, he saw that there was only an inch-deep wound on the chest of the white-haired zombie, which shocked Wu Fan. The silver moon sword was a top-grade magic weapon flying sword, but it only caused the zombie to suffer a minor injury. From this, it can be seen that the white-haired zombie's body is indeed as hard as it is said to be. At this moment, a woman's voice suddenly came from the entrance of the cave blocked by the two white-haired zombies. "Brother, help me!" After hearing the cry for help, Wu Fan decided to make a quick decision and kill the two white-haired zombies first. In fact, when he first came here, he already knew that there were people in this small cave, and he also saw two corpses outside the cave, and knew that these people were the ones he was looking for. Wu Fan opened his mouth and suddenly spit out a ball of flame. After the flame came out of his mouth, it instantly turned into the size of a head. It was the Mtlnovel extreme fire, but this extreme fire was obviously different from before. It was still golden in appearance, but there was an obvious change inside the flame. There was only a trace of purple in it before, but now it has become a large ball of purple, which is equivalent to occupying half of the entire flame. This change is of course caused by the Mtlnovel extreme fire swallowing up the black wind flame, and its power is much stronger than before. After the Mtlnovel extreme fire flew out of Wu Fan's mouth, it flew straight to the two white-haired zombies. The three people in the cave were surprised and happy at this time. When they heard the sound from outside, they knew someone came to save them. Then they saw a flying sword shining with silver light shot over and injured one of the white-haired zombies. They knew that the person who saved them must be a powerful person. The woman surnamed Lin excitedly shouted, "Brother, help me." Just after she finished shouting for help, they were shocked to find that a ball of golden and purple flame flew over and instantly burned a white-haired zombie to ashes. You know, this is a white-haired zombie equivalent to a top-level chi refining cultivator. This senior brother killed one so casually. How could they not be shocked? After killing that zombie, the flame rushed to another white-haired zombie. The same scene appeared. This last white-haired zombie was also turned into ashes. They knew that they were rescued. The three of them even had the urge to cry with joy. It had been 7 days. They had been trapped for 7 days. During these 7 days, they had been living in fear. Now they were finally rescued and they didn't have to die. Now that it was safe outside, the three hurriedly walked out of the small cave and came to the huge cave outside. At the same time, they also saw the senior brother who saved them. The three hurriedly walked to the man and bowed and said, "Thank you for saving my life, senior brother. I will never forget your kindness." Wu Fan looked at the three people, and then smiled and said, "You don't have to be polite, junior brothers and sisters. I also came here for the sect's mission. Since the three of you have been saved, let's return to the sect quickly. It's a pity for the two junior brothers and sisters." Wu Fan said, turning his head to look at the two bodies in the distance. The three people also looked over, and their faces showed sadness at the same time. At this time, the one called Senior Brother Kong looked at Wu Fan and bowed and said, "Junior Brother Kong Ming, this is Junior Brother Yan Jun, and this is Junior Sister Lin Xiao." Senior brother saved our lives, and the three of us must be grateful. If senior brother needs us in the future, please just ask. And Yan Jun and Lin Xiao also nodded and followed in agreement. Wu Fan smiled and nodded, then said, I am Wu Fan, a disciple of the inner sect Danding Peak. My fellow disciples should leave here as soon as possible. I want to go deep into this cave to take a look. When these three people heard that Wu Fan announced his family status, their faces showed shock. They heard the stern and glaring eyes, Senior Brother Wu Fan. Are you Senior Brother Wu Fan? I have heard of Senior Brother's name a long time ago. You were the first person in the outer sect competition 2 years ago. I didn't expect the three of us to be saved by our Senior Brother. The other two people also nodded with surprise on their faces, and Lin Xiao smiled sweetly and said, Senior Brother Wu, Xiao has wanted to meet you in person for a long time. I didn't expect that it was my senior brother who came to save me. When I return to the outer gate, I must show off to my best friends, ha ha ha. After the surprise, Kong Ming immediately said to Wu Fan with a worried look on his face, Brother Wu, you'd better not go to the depths of this cave. The three of us heard it before, and there was a strange cry in the depths. I suspect there must be more powerful zombies deep in the cave. Yan Yan and Lin Xiao nodded again and again. Lin Xiao said with a look of fear on his face, Yes, senior brother, you'd better not go in. Xiao, I also heard that strange sound, but it was very scary. That sound was definitely not those of these two white men. Sent by Hairy Zombie. Chapter 93 Black Crystal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wu Fan listened to the two people's words and hesitated. The reason why he wanted to enter the cave to check it out was that it was difficult for the white-haired zombie to be born, and two of them appeared in the cave at once. He felt that there must be something strange in the cave, so he was ready to go in and check it out. But from what the two people said, there must be powerful zombies in the depths of the cave. Now he didn't know whether he should go in and take the risk. But when he thought that if there was any opportunity in the cave that was missed, it would be a pity. Thinking of this, he decided to go in and take a look, but before going in, he must make some preparations to leave a way out for himself. Wu Fan said, Thank you for your concern, brother and sister. I know what I am doing and I will not be in danger. I have my own way to save my life. Since Brother Wu said so, we will not persuade him anymore. I hope you will be more careful. We will go back to the sect now. Kong Ming said helplessly. At the same time, Yan Jun and Lin Xiao also nodded, and then the three of them walked away, collected the bodies of the two fellow disciples, and then left the cave. After the three people left, Wu Fan hesitated for a while, then walked deeper into the cave. While walking, he used the heavenly ghost breathing technique to hide his breath, and then pasted a talisman on his body. At the moment when the talisman was pasted on his body, Wu Fan's body suddenly became vague. When he came to a huge open space deeper in the cave, he stopped and took out the set of Tian Duanshan formation from his storage bag, and then set it up in this open space. When everything was ready, Wu Fan raised his mouth and walked deeper into the cave. After a while, when Wu Fan was walking forward slowly, at this moment, a strange roar suddenly came from the front. This roar was more terrifying than the two white-haired zombies before. When Wu Fan heard the roar, his body trembled, and he hurriedly stopped and subconsciously prepared for battle. As a result, after waiting for a while, the monster inside did not come out. Wu Fan waited for a while again, and then continued to walk inside. This time, after walking about 100 feet, the road in front narrowed and extended to the right. Wu Fan slowly walked to the corner and stretched his head to the right. He was shocked to find that there were 4 white-haired zombies wandering at the end of the road, and behind these zombies, there was a cave entrance, and inside the cave entrance was another huge cave. Just as Wu Fan was watching, a strange roar suddenly came out of the cave entrance, and the 4 white-haired zombies began to tremble in a very human way after hearing the roar, as if there was something in the cave that frightened them. Wu Fan saw this and slowly retracted his head. His face was a little uncertain, and he didn't know whether he should go over to continue exploring. There were 4 white-haired zombies guarding the cave entrance, and it was not easy to go over. He thought it was easy to kill these 4 zombies, but if he lured out the stronger one inside, it would be difficult to deal with. He began to think seriously. After a moment, Wu Fan's eyes lit up and he took out a talisman from his storage bag. This talisman was just an ordinary leading talisman, and this leading talisman didn't have much effect. It was just to induce some creatures with low intelligence. Wu Fan bought this talisman because of his second senior brother. The second senior brother usually caught spirit beasts with this leading talisman. Before catching spirit beasts, he would set up a formation in a place, and then use this leading talisman to lure the spirit beasts into the formation. This was very time-saving and labor-saving. It was no wonder that this foodie could come up with such a good idea. Wu Fan threw the guide talisman forward, and it turned into a white light and flew towards the 4 white-haired zombies. When the white light was about to reach the zombies, it turned at high speed and flew backwards. After seeing the white light, the 4 white-haired zombies suddenly screamed and chased after it, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Wu Fan's mouth corners slightly raised, and then he continued to walk slowly towards the cave entrance. When he arrived at the cave entrance, he stretched his head and looked inside. His eyes were suddenly stunned by the scene inside, and he even had the urge to run away. There were 2 green-haired zombies in the cave. You know, green-haired zombies are equivalent to the strength of foundation-building cultivators, but this was not the reason why Wu Fan was frightened. What frightened him the most was another zombie. This zombie was covered with red hair, had a green face and fangs, and its nails were more than 3 inches long. It was a red-haired zombie, which was a terrifying monster equivalent to a Jindan cultivator. If this zombie ran out from here, the whole Daxia country would be in a bloody storm, and it would definitely alarm some Jindan ancestors. When Wu Fan saw this scene, he planned to run away immediately, but when he took a closer look, he found that the red-haired zombie seemed to be asleep, sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, motionless, but Wu Fan saw that above the red-haired zombie's head, a black crystal was floating, and the black crystal was faintly emitting black light, which looked very magical. At a glance, it was known that this black crystal was definitely a very precious treasure. The 2 green-haired zombies were now walking back and forth in the cave, roaring from time to time. The roars that Wu Fan had heard before should have been made by these 2 green-haired zombies. However, no matter how they moved, they never dared to get close to the red-haired zombie. Judging from their appearance, they must be very afraid of the red-haired zombie. Wu Fan stared at the black crystal with a little greed in his eyes. He was thinking whether to take the risk to take the black crystal away. He knew that the black crystal was definitely an amazing treasure. If he just left like this, he would be unwilling. Wu Fan hesitated for a moment, and then made up his mind and narrowed his eyes. He decided to take a gamble. Seeing that the red-haired zombie was motionless, like a statue in the temple, he felt more confident. Thinking of this, Wu Fan patted his storage bag, took out a guide talisman from it and threw it out. The guide talisman turned into white light, which flashed in the cave and flew away at a high speed. Wu Fan himself quickly hid in the corner. With his ability of the heavenly ghost gathering technique, the 2 green-haired zombies would not be able to find him if they did not see him. Sure enough, after seeing the white light, the 2 green-haired zombies screamed twice and chased him directly, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Wu Fan seized the opportunity and suddenly rushed into the cave. When he was still far away from the red-haired zombie, he stopped. Then he made a gesture with one hand and pointed at the black crystal. The black crystal flashed and suddenly flew towards Wu Fan at a high speed and fell into his hand. Wu Fan took a look at the crystal in his hand and without waiting for a moment, he ran out of the cave at a high speed. Chapter 94, Escape from the Cave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Wu Fan ran about 500 feet away, he was discovered by the 2 green-haired zombies, probably because he ran too fast and the air flow was too loud. The 2 green-haired zombies in the distance immediately gave up chasing the guide talisman and ran straight to Wu Fan at high speed. When Wu Fan saw that the 2 green-haired zombies had discovered him, he thought it was not good, and hurriedly slapped the storage bag, directly released the Gale sword, and jumped on it, and then controlled the flying sword to fly at high speed in the direction from which he came. During the flight, Wu Fan looked back at the two green-haired zombies and found that they were running much faster than he was flying. At this rate, it would not take long for them to catch up with him. The green-haired zombies were indeed as powerful as those of a foundation-building cultivator. Their speed was too fast. The two green-haired zombies had green eyes, bared their fangs, and screamed. It was really scary. Wu Fan stopped watching them and quickly turned his head to fly towards the direction of the god-breaking formation. In just half a cup of tea, the two green-haired zombies were less than 10 feet away from Wu Fan, and the god-breaking formation was still some distance away. According to this time, Wu Fan would definitely not be able to reach the place and would be caught up by the two green-haired zombies. By then, even if Wu Fan had 100 lives, it would not be enough to die. At this time, Wu Fan's body trembled, and suddenly a golden light emerged from his body, and instantly spread out 10 feet away, just wrapping the two green-haired zombies in it. But a surprising thing happened. The two green-haired zombies only trembled slightly, but their speed did not slow down much, only less than 1/10 slower than before. When Wu Fan saw this scene, his face became extremely gloomy. The two green-haired zombies were chasing him with strange cries, and they would be caught up soon. However, he did not release the Silver Moon Sword, because Wu Fan knew that even if he released the top-grade magic weapon Flying Sword, it would not cause much damage to the two green-haired zombies. Wu Fan snorted coldly, and suddenly opened his mouth, and the Tianluo Extreme Fire flew out of his mouth in an instant, and rushed straight to the two green-haired zombies at a high speed. Wu Fan knew the power of the Tianluo Extreme Fire. If the Extreme Fire got close to him, I am afraid that the two green-haired zombies would also suffer. When Tianluo Jihua was about to reach the two green-haired zombies, something shocking happened. The two green-haired zombies opened their mouths at the same time, and a stream of green corpse gas instantly spurted out of their mouths and went straight to Tianluo Jihua. With a hiss, Tianluo Jihua was actually blocked by the corpse gas. When Wu Fan saw this scene, his face turned black. He didn't expect that even the terrifying power of his Tianluo Jihua was blocked. The green-haired zombies were too powerful. Fortunately, there was the obstruction of Tianluo Jihua and the gravity of Jinyuan Chongguang, which finally bought Wu Fan some time. He hurriedly turned back and tried his best to fly towards the Mitian Duanshan formation. Finally, when the two green-haired zombies were about to catch up with him, he finally entered the Mitian Duanshan formation. After entering the formation, Wu Fan also exhaled a long breath, and at this time the two green-haired zombies also rushed into the formation. Wu Fan found a place to stay still and used the Heavenly Ghost Chi condensation technique to the extreme. The two green-haired zombies rushed around like headless flies. They had obviously lost their target and could not find Wu Fan. However, the Heavenly Luo Extreme Fire did not stop and continued to attack the two green-haired zombies. Since the two green-haired zombies entered the formation, they obviously could not grasp the movement trajectory of the extreme fire. They could only spray corpse gas around to block the extreme fire. However, this method did not last for many times before the Heavenly Luo Extreme Fire approached them. When one of the green-haired zombies was touched by the extreme fire, its green hair was instantly ignited and it screamed wildly in the flames. After a while, the green-haired zombie turned into ashes and finally disappeared without a trace. After destroying one green-haired zombie, the Heavenly Luo Extreme Fire did not stop for a moment and went straight to the other one. Soon, the other green-haired zombie was finally destroyed. At this time, Wu Fan finally smiled, but he didn't dare to delay. He quickly retracted the formation and flew towards the cave entrance. He knew that there was an even more terrifying red-haired zombie deep in the cave. If the red-haired zombie woke up, Wu Fan would die. When Wu Fan was about to reach the cave entrance, he found the four white-haired zombies that had chased the guide talisman before. Wu Fan would not let them exist. He directly released the Tianluo Extreme Fire to turn them into ashes, and then flew out of the cave without stopping and flew towards the Qinfeng Gate. 2 hours after Wu Fan flew out of this mountain range, in the depths of the previous cave, the red-haired zombie suddenly opened its blood-red eyes, looked around in a daze, and then suddenly looked up. When it saw that there was nothing above its head, it suddenly looked up to the sky and let out a long roar. The powerful aura on its body also spread out, shaking the entire cave and causing gravel to fall to the ground. Wu Fan certainly didn't know what happened in the cave. He was looking at the black crystal in his hand with joy. Although he didn't know what it was, he could tell that this black crystal was definitely a treasure. He decided to check it out when he returned to the sect to see if he could find any information about this crystal. 5 days later, when Wu Fan returned to Qingfeng Gate, he rushed straight to the Sutra Collection Pavilion. 2 hours later, he spent some spiritual stones in exchange for some jade slips of information. These jade slips recorded all the information in the world of cultivating immortals. After returning to the cave with all kinds of precious materials, he immediately started to check the jade slips. 1 day passed, and Wu Fan put down the jade slips in his hand with a gloomy face. This was the last jade slip he checked, and the result was still the same. Without finding out what the black crystal was, Wu Fan was a little helpless. He had no choice but to slowly search for information in the future, but he determined that this black crystal was definitely a valuable treasure. Since he couldn't find it, Wu Fan could only treasure the black crystal. He took the crystal into the small space, put the crystal into his storage room, and then walked to the spirit beast room. After taking a look at the little white fox, he found that it was still sleeping. It must have not digested the 10,000 blood pills. Then Wu Fan came out of the small space again and flew straight to the affairs hall with his flying sword. A quarter of an hour later, Wu Fan came to Elder Fan's room, walked over and gave Elder Fan a salute, and said, "Elder Fan, this disciple is here to hand over a mission." After Wu Fan finished speaking, he handed over his identity plate. After Elder Fan took it and checked it, he nodded with a smile and said, "Well, Senior Nephew Wu did a good job this time. The 3 Junior Nephew Kongs have already asked me. I have reported this, so you have completed this task." Chapter 96, The Secret Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Wu Fan heard Uncle Yan's words, he was startled. Secret Realm? What is a secret realm? Why only 3 places? Do you still have to be a core disciple to go? He couldn't figure it out and planned to ask his second senior brother later. At this moment, Li Ning sighed and said, "I know this too, but what can I do? We can only look forward to the inner sect competition in 3 years, and we will have another core disciple from Danding Peak." When Li Ning said this, he glared at his second disciple Zhu Ming, but Zhu Ming scratched his head with his stubby hands, showing an embarrassed look. Fifth senior sister Ru Shui giggled when she saw this scene, but after being glared at by her master Li Ning, she honestly stopped laughing. At this time, Elder Yanfen said again, "Well, that's all we can do. If we have another core disciple from Danding Peak, then our trip to the secret realm will be fruitful. You know, all the disciples who entered the secret realm brought 30% of the elixirs that come out can be obtained from the mountain peaks where they are located. This is a large amount of precious elixirs, especially in the secret realm. There are many elixirs that have disappeared from the outside world, including the elixirs for refining the foundation establishment pill. There is, too. My senior disciple can now try to break through the foundation establishment stage, but unfortunately the sect only gave him 1 foundation establishment pill. I was afraid that this foundation establishment pill wouldn't be able to help Wei Qi break through the bottleneck, so I haven't let him until now. Trying to break through will only wait for the trip to the secret realm in 3 years. If he can bring back enough elixirs, I will refine a few foundation building pills for him. By then, with Wei Qi's qualifications, he can break through the foundation building period. Nothing is lost." Li Ning nodded and said, "Junior brother's words are reasonable. If Wei Qi can break through the bottleneck, then our Danding Peak will have 4 foundation building elders. By then, our peak will have 1 more resource. A lot, and at the same time, the strength can also be improved a lot, but it is a pity that my eldest disciple, alas." Yanfen glanced at his senior brother's expression and could only comfort him. "Senior brother, don't worry too much. Qingyu Huiji has his own destiny." Li Ning nodded sadly and said, "I hope so, Seeing his senior brother's appearance, Yan-Fan could only change the subject and said, this trip to the secret realm is still the same as 30 years ago. In addition to our Qingfeng sect, Earth Demon sect, Weapon Refining sect, Lingxiao Temple, and Yaowang Valley, the Corpse Refining sect, each sect will send more than 100 disciples there, and the big immortal cultivating families also have quotas. There will probably be more than 1,000 core disciples entering the secret realm, and then there will be another fight between dragons and tigers. However, if you can come out alive, you will have the hope of advancing to the foundation building stage. Li Ning nodded and said, yes, didn't we also enter the secret realm back then and come back alive after a lot of fighting? It was precisely because of that trip to the secret realm that we were able to obtain enough building materials. Ji Dan finally became a foundation building monk. After Li Ning finished speaking, there was emotion in his eyes, as if he was recalling the past. Back then I took 3 foundation establishment pills in a row and finally broke through the bottleneck. Unlike you, senior brother, you broke through the bottleneck with just 2 foundation establishment pills. Yan-Fan laughed. Li Ning also laughed. After the two laughed, Li Ning said, I don't know when junior brother Xuyao will come back. It has been almost 3 years since he left. Who knows, but it should be soon. Junior brother Xuyao's cultivation speed is much faster than mine. He was about to break through the middle stage of foundation building 3 years ago. When he left, he said that he would go out for a while. He hasn't come back for so long, so he should have advanced to the middle stage of foundation building, Yan-Fan said with emotion. Well, although junior brother Xuyao is a monk in our Danding Peak, he is actually an ascetic cultivator. Not only is he fast in cultivation, but his strength is also amazing. I tell you, junior brother Xuyao will surpass him in no time. Mine. Li Ning said with a smile. Senior brother, what you said is wrong. Although junior brother Xuyao practices hard and his cultivation speed is astonishingly fast, don't you, senior brother, do the same? According to me, senior brother, you should be about to break through the bottleneck and enter the late stage of foundation building, right? Yan-Fan looked at Li Ning and asked. It's not that easy to break through the late stage of foundation building. I have been at the peak of the middle stage of foundation building for more than 10 years, and I still haven't broken through the bottleneck. Sigh. Li Ning shook his head and sighed. Sigh, junior brother, the same is true for me. I have been trapped in the early stage of foundation building for decades, and there is still no sign of a breakthrough. Once this monk reaches the foundation building stage, it will be extremely difficult for him to be promoted. Yan-Fan, he said with some melancholy. After the two chatted for a while, Yan-Fan got up and took Wei Qi to say goodbye. After Yan-Fan and the others left, Wu Fan and others followed the master into the alchemy room and started watching as usual. Master makes alchemy. In the evening, Wu Fan and 5 other disciples walked out of the alchemy room and came to the courtyard outside. 5th senior sister Ru Shui glanced at 4th senior sister, then walked to Wu Fan and said, Little junior brother, don't do any tasks recently. I heard from Uncle Master that the red-haired zombie is very ferocious, and it will be troublesome if we encounter that monster. Well, junior brother, I won't do missions recently. Wu Fan nodded and replied. At this time, the 4th senior sister Jishuang came over, looked at Wu Fan and said coldly, What kind of skills do I need to exchange for my contribution points? How many more are needed? Senior sister, I still have some contribution points. If I need it, I can just take it. When Wu Fan heard 4th senior sister's words, he felt a little moved in his heart, but he said, Thank you 4th senior sister for your kindness. Junior brother, I am not in a hurry to exchange the skills. I also want to practice when I go out to do tasks. 3rd senior brother Yi Lei also said, Little junior brother, you are welcome. If you need contribution points urgently, the senior brothers and sisters will help you. 3rd senior brother, I have some here. If you need it, take it. Wu Fan bowed slightly to 3rd senior brother Yi Lei and said, No need, 3rd senior brother, I really don't need contribution points urgently. By the way, 3rd senior brother, do you know what the secret realm is? When the third senior brother heard Wu Fan's question, he nodded and said, I know, the secret realm is in a small space. It is said that the small space is actually a piece of space fragment. I don't know whether it is true or not. I only know that the area inside is very large. There are not only various precious spiritual medicines, but also some rare birds and animals. However, the small space will only be opened once every 30 years. At this time, the second senior brother took over and said, yes, I heard that there are mountains and waters in that secret realm, and its area is as large as that of a state in our Xia country. Not only is the spiritual energy particularly rich, but all kinds of rare and precious spiritual medicines can be seen everywhere. Even some spiritual medicines that have disappeared in the outside world can be found in that secret realm. All the immortal sects and families in our Xia country, if they want to refine foundation-building pills, can only find spiritual medicines from that secret realm to refine them. Junior brother, you also know that some of the spiritual medicines for refining foundation-building pills have disappeared in the outside world, so foundation-building pills are hard to find. It is because of the scarcity of foundation-building pills that all the immortal sects in our Xia country have so few foundation-building cultivators. Just like our eldest brother, he could have broken through the foundation-building stage a long time ago, but because he did not have enough foundation-building pills, he remained in the great perfection of qi refining. Chapter 97 The Old Ghost in Black Robe. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fifth senior sister Xuyao also jumped and laughed and said, I know that too. I heard that the spiritual energy in that secret realm is particularly rich. Every time the secret realm is opened, the major immortal cultivation sects will give several qi-refining great perfection cultivators several foundation-building pills to let them break through the bottleneck in the secret realm. After they break through to the foundation-building stage, they can snatch the spiritual medicines picked by others. Therefore, in that secret realm, the most dangerous are not those monsters, but these immortal cultivators. They are not ambiguous in killing people and robbing treasures. It is said that every time the cultivators enter the secret realm, less than half of them can actually walk out. Third senior brother continued, it is said that the entrance to the secret realm is extremely unstable. Foundation-building cultivators cannot enter. Only qi-refining cultivators can enter. The entrance to the secret realm will have a period of stability every 30 years. Therefore, during this stable period, the major immortal cultivation sects will send powerful qi-refining cultivators to enter, and our Qinfeng sect will send core disciples to go there, and each mountain has a quota limit. Because that space can only accommodate about 1,000 cultivators. If too many people enter, the unstable space will easily collapse. Therefore, each immortal cultivation sect and immortal cultivation family has a limited number of places. And this quota is very precious. If you can enter it and come back alive, the sect will reward you with the foundation-building pill that all qi-training cultivators dream of. The third brother stopped talking here, and the second brother also sighed. The fifth sister Xuyao said angrily, it's all the fault of the second brother. He only knows how to eat every day and doesn't practice well. Until now, he is not a core disciple, and senior brother Qingyu is not in the sect. Only the eldest brother is a core disciple in our sect. What can we do? We can't waste a quota in vain, right? Humph, Xuyao, don't say that to the second brother. If you have the ability, you can compete for the position of core disciple. At this time, the fourth sister actually spoke, but her voice was very cold, and she didn't show any mercy to Xuyao. After hearing Zhishuang's words, Xuyao miraculously did not talk back, but just snorted. For senior brothers and sisters, do you know what the restrictions are for competing for core disciples? Wu Fan spoke at this time. Anyone who is above the 10th level of qi refining can participate, but there are hundreds of participants each time, and if you want to become a core disciple, you can only be promoted to the position of core disciple if you win the top 30 in the competition. Third senior brother Yi Lei answered Wu Fan's question. After hearing this, Wu Fan whispered to himself, top 30 in the competition, 10th level of qi refining, 3 years. After the 5 people talked for a while, they all left here and returned to their own caves. In the next time, Wu Fan planned to improve his cultivation first. He decided to hide in the sect and not go out to do the mission. Obviously, the red-haired zombie was looking for him. Wu Fan knew in his heart that the zombie would be dealt with by the Jindan ancestor, so he was not in a hurry. It would not be too late for him to go out to do the mission after the zombie had a result. Wu Fan came to the bedroom of the small space and then began to practice. Half a year later in the outside world, Wu Fan stopped practicing. He is now at the peak of the 9th level of Qi training, but the 10th level is a big bottleneck. It is very difficult to break through. He tried several times but failed. Wu Fan did not force it. He decided to consolidate his cultivation first and try again later. In the past 6 months, in addition to practicing, he went to his master to watch him make pills. Yesterday, he heard from his second senior brother that the red-haired zombie was besieged by 3 Jindan ancestors and was seriously injured and escaped. He left Xia country. Wu Fan decided to continue to go out to do tasks. He wanted to save up enough contribution points as soon as possible, and strive to exchange the 2 secret techniques before the big competition, and break through the 10th level of Qi training. The next day, Wu Fan flew away from Qingfengmen. This time, the task was to hunt down a casual cultivator. This casual cultivator called himself the Black Robe Old Ghost, and often robbed some lone low-level cultivators. At present, 5 outer disciples of Qingfengmen have died in his hands. His cultivation is about the 10th to 11th level of Qi training, and he often appears in the area of Bailin City. 3 days later, outside Balan City, more than 100 miles away, there was a young cultivator flying slowly in the sky. He was only at the 5th level of Qi refining, about 17 or 18 years old, with a mid-level magic sword under his feet. After he flew for 2 hours, a sword light suddenly flew below him and finally stopped not far in front of him. The light dissipated, revealing a middle-aged man in his 40s. He was wearing a black robe, had a full beard, was skinny, and had bloodshot eyes. He must have practiced evil skills. His appearance was extremely terrifying. As soon as the middle-aged man appeared, he laughed strangely. "Little guy, aren't you afraid of danger when you go out by yourself?" The young monk was obviously frightened when he saw the middle-aged man. He said in a panic, "Who are you? What are you going to do?" "Huh, who am I?" "Little guy, I wonder if you have heard of the old ghost in black robe? Since you asked me what I do, then I will tell you. I want to eat your flesh and drink your blood." The middle-aged man's voice was as unpleasant as a broken gong, and when he laughed, he was as ugly as an evil ghost. After hearing what he said, the young man on the opposite side calmed down and asked again, "Are you really the old ghost in black robe?" Little guy, are you scared when you hear my name? You can only blame your bad luck for meeting me, the old ghost. The man like an evil ghost said with evil eyes. After confirming that this was the old ghost in black robe, the young man on the opposite side stopped trembling, the corners of his mouth began to slightly rise, and a hint of joy appeared in his eyes. He said, "I am not afraid of meeting you, but I am very happy. You just said that I am unlucky, but I don't think so. In my opinion, it is your bad luck to meet me. I didn't expect that this task would be completed so quickly." When the old ghost in black robe heard the boy's words, he instantly felt something was wrong. He felt that there must be something wrong with this boy, so he shouted, "Who are you?" The face of the young monk on the opposite side suddenly began to change, and his height gradually lengthened. In less than 2 breaths, he turned into another person. This man was about 26 or 27 years old, with fair skin, bright eyes, thin lips, and was extremely handsome. The man was none other than Wu Fan himself. He did not expect to see the old ghost in black robe so soon. Wu Fan had just arrived in Balan City today. He had read the information about the old ghost in black robe and knew that he only robbed and killed low-level cultivators who were alone. So when he first arrived, he suppressed his cultivation to the 5th level of Qi training and changed his appearance to be about 17 or 18 years old. Then he flew slowly in the sky, trying to lure out the old ghost in black robe. Unexpectedly, he really lured the old ghost out in less than half a day. How could Wu Fan not be happy? Chapter 98 Ghost. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When the black-robed old ghost saw that the young man opposite him suddenly changed his appearance, he felt a sudden thought. He was not stupid. He finally realized that this man must have come to find him. He changed his appearance and lowered his cultivation just to lure him out. That's all, but after he discovered that the other party was only at the 9th level of Qi refining, he felt relieved again. At this moment, Wu Fan smiled and said, "You don't need to know who I am, you just need to know that you are worth 800 contribution points." 800 contribution points? The black-robed old ghost asked in confusion, but Wu Fan had no intention of giving him an answer. He slapped the storage bag, and a silver flying sword flew out immediately. After the silver flying sword circled in the sky, it went straight to the black-robed old ghost and fired at a rapid rate. Go, seeing that the other party had made the first move, the old ghost in black robe laughed strangely, and also patted the storage bag, releasing a skull. After the skull flew out, its eyes suddenly lit up with red light, and it went straight to that the silver flying sword went away. When it was about to reach the vicinity of the silver flying sword, the skull suddenly opened its mouth and instantly spurted out a pillar of purple fire. After the silver flying sword touched the pillar of fire, it suddenly stopped, but the silver light in his body was not extinguished. Wu Fan was suddenly startled when he saw the skull. After taking a closer look, he smiled. It turned out that the skull was also a top-quality magic weapon. It was not a ghostly thing at all. However, the other party could have won. It is not easy to obtain the best magic weapon, no wonder he dares to be so rampant. When the black-robed old ghost saw that the opponent's flying sword was safe and sound, he was also startled. He took a closer look, and a greedy look appeared in his eyes. He didn't expect that the opponent also had a top-quality magic weapon, but he knew that his skeleton, the first magic weapon, is so hard-won, and he also knows how precious the best magic weapon is. If he can grab the silver flying sword, his combat power will be greatly improved in the future. Thinking of this, he patted the storage bag again, directly released a harpoon, which was only a high-grade magic weapon. After the harpoon flew out of the storage bag, it flew straight towards Wu Fan himself. Wu Fan saw that the other party released another magic weapon, as if he was going to fight with him, but Wu Fan didn't want to waste time. He only saw him shaking his head, then his body blurred, and he disappeared immediately, and in the black robe not far in front of the old ghost, the space fluctuated, and Wu Fan appeared from there instantly. Then his body swayed, and a piece of golden light spread to 10 feet away, and wrapped the old ghost in black robes into the golden light, and then Wu Fan waved his hand and a green needle flew out and went straight towards the old ghost in black robe. When the old ghost in black robe saw the person in front of him suddenly disappear, his heart trembled. Then he saw the person flashing not far away in front of him. He suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart, and then he was covered in a golden light. The moment the golden light came to him, his body sank, as if a huge mountain was pressing on him. He could not even lift his arms, and could only try his best to stay in the air without falling. At this moment, a ray of green light flew through his head, his eyes popped out, and then he fell downwards. At this time, Wu Fan had already flown in front of his corpse. With a wave of his long sword, his head fell off and was put into his storage bag. Then he released a fireball to burn the body into ashes, and then put the opponent's storage bag into it. As soon as he put away the magic weapon, he flew away towards the sky with his flying sword. Even if this mission is completed, it is also the fastest mission he has completed. As long as he brings the head back, he will have obtained 800 contribution points. 7 days later, in a mortal city, in a very ordinary courtyard, there were two people standing at this time. One was an old man of 60 or 70 years old, and the other was a man of 26 or 70 years old. The old man bowed and said, "The little old man pays homage to the envoy. Get up and tell me what's going on." The young man said. The old man straightened up and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, this is what happened. Just a year ago, in a house in Beijing, more than a dozen people died overnight. The next day, the government sent someone to check. But nothing was found, but the death state of the dozen or so people was extremely terrifying, as if they had been frightened. Their faces were distorted, their eyes suddenly opened, and their faces were pale. While looking at the corpses of these dozen people, at that time, no traces of fatal injuries were found, and the officials could not find out the cause of death. Later, the matter was ignored. It was not until half a year later that another family of more than 10 people moved into the house, but not long after we stayed there, one night, more than a dozen people died one after another. The death conditions were exactly the same as half a year ago. The government sent people there again the next day, but they still couldn't find out what happened. There was no way, the officers and soldiers, we could only seal up that house and no longer allow people to live in it. Until a month ago, people began to die for no reason in several houses adjacent to that house. Now the whole North City is full of panic. When the little old man, after I heard the news, I hurried over to check. When I arrived at those houses, I used my spiritual eyes to observe and found that the area was shrouded in a very strong yin qi. Judging from the intensity of the yin qi, there must be a powerful ghost. I knew that my cultivation was low and I didn't dare to go check it out at night, so I reported it to the sect. The young man was Wu Fan, who took over the mission again. After Wu Fan listened to the old man's words, he also understood the whole story. He pondered for a moment and then said, "I know the matter. I will go there to investigate at night. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first." The old man hurriedly bent down and clasped his fists and said, "I have already told the envoy everything I know. I can only trouble the envoy to go there." That Wu Fan nodded and walked out of the courtyard. The old man bowed and said, "Go slowly, sir." When Wu Fan walked out of the courtyard, he walked directly towards the North City. While walking, he could only hear him whispering to himself, "Ghost? I really want to see what this ghost is." As night was about to fall, Wu Fan came to the house the old man mentioned, which was the house where the first death occurred. When he arrived, he used the spiritual eye technique to observe and indeed found that there was a strong yin energy in this area, but he did not find the shadow of the ghost. Wu Fan knew that ghosts usually come out late at night. During the day, when there is sunlight, ghosts dare not come out to move. Wu Fan did not know what kind of ghost this was or how high its level was, but just in case, he still set up the Mi Tian Duanshan formation in this house. After setting up the formation, he found a clean place and sat cross-legged, waiting for the ghost to appear. It was not until midnight that Wu Fan suddenly opened his eyes, his mouth corners slightly raised, and he saw that the yin energy in this courtyard was becoming more and more dense. He used his spiritual eyes to look at every corner of the courtyard, but did not find any ghosts. Wu Fan stood up and walked towards the place where the yin energy was the densest. Chapter 99, 10th Level of Qi Refining. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There is a well in this courtyard. The well is round and half a meter wide. Wu Fan walked to the well and looked down. At the moment he looked down, a white shadow suddenly flew up from the well. Wu Fan was frightened and retreated. After he retreated a few meters away, he looked forward and found that it was a female ghost wearing a white dress, disheveled hair, and nails more than an inch long. After rushing out of the well, the female ghost looked around and then began to scream. When the female ghost raised her head, her long hair spread out, revealing her face. She was pale, her lips were purple, her eyes were bloodshot, and blood was flowing from her eyes. She looked really scary. After she came out, she was very confused. She was probably affected by Wu Fan's formation. She was a little overwhelmed and just stood there screaming. When Wu Fan first saw this female ghost, he was also frightened by her appearance. Later, he found out that this female ghost was just a fierce ghost. A fierce ghost is a ghost born of resentment. After the ghost dies, the resentment does not dissipate, and finally turns into a fierce ghost to do evil. However, this fierce ghost does not pose any threat to Wu Fan, and it is still easy to kill her. But if it is a ghost general, Wu Fan can only run away. Of course, if it is a ghost king who appears tonight, even if Wu Fan has the Mitian Duanshan formation and the protection of Tian Luo Jihua, he will definitely die. Wu Fan watched the evil ghost for a while, then raised his mouth slightly, and then opened his mouth, and Tian Luo Extreme Fire appeared instantly, and went straight to the evil ghost. When Tian Luo Extreme Fire touched the evil ghost, its body was suddenly wrapped in flames, and it let out a shrill scream. In less than a breath, the evil ghost disappeared without a trace. Wu Fan put away the formation, and then flew towards the old man's courtyard with the flying sword. A moment later, in the old man's courtyard. "Greetings, Lord Envoy." The old man bowed and said with a fist. "That ghost is just a ghost, and I have destroyed it. My mission is completed. You just need to report it to the sect." Wu Fan turned around and left after saying that. The old man was shocked when he heard it. The ghost was destroyed so quickly. This is too fast. Seeing that Wu Fan had released his flying sword and was about to leave, he quickly bowed and said, "Go slowly, sir. I will report this to the sect immediately." After Wu Fan flew away, he continued to do the next task. 1 year later, Qingfeng Sect, Affairs Hall. "Ha, nephew Wu, I can't help but admire you now. For more than a year, every task has been completed easily by you, and you have been doing tasks non-stop. Your contribution value is already tens of thousands. It's incredible. With all your contribution value now, ordinary inner disciples can't earn it in 10 years. I really don't know what kind of skills you want to change to require so many contribution points." Elder Fun laughed at Wu Fan and said, "Thank you Elder Fun for your praise. I just want to experience myself and prepare for breaking through the bottleneck." Wu Fan also said with a smile. "Well, nephew, this is right. Breaking through the 10th level of Qi refining from the 9th level is a big level. It is not easy to break through. It is good to experience it." Elder Fun also nodded in agreement. "Elder Fun, if there is nothing else, I will take my leave. Recently, I have signs of a breakthrough, so I will not do any more missions." Wu Fan said with a fist. "Well, cultivation is the real business, so please go back soon, nephew." Elder Fan nodded. Wu Fan stood up and walked out of the affairs hall, then flew towards the sutra library on his flying sword. A quarter of an hour later, he arrived at the second floor of the sutra library and headed straight for the contribution value area. When he saw the heavenly demonic beast armor art and devil heaven fist, he finally showed joy on his face. After more than a year of continuous tasks, he finally saved enough contribution points a few days ago. During this year, Wu Fan didn't know how many people and monsters he killed. There were several times when he was seriously injured, but in the end he completed the task without any danger. During this year, Wu Fan also went to some places, went to several markets, collected some spiritual medicine seeds, and even collected some spiritual medicines for refining longevity pills. He only needed a few main spiritual medicines to start refining. Wu Fan took the 2 jade slips and ran to the first floor. When he came to the old man, he found that he was still reading a book with relish. He didn't know what the old man was reading. Every time he saw him, he was reading as usual. Wu Fan stood there and didn't dare to disturb him. After about a cup of tea, the old man put down the book and turned to look at Wu Fan. When Wu Fan saw that the old man finally put down the book, he hurriedly handed over the 2 jade slips. When the old man saw the 2 jade slips, he said "huh" lightly, and then said, "Nephew Wu, these 2 magical skills require a lot of contribution points. I remember that when you brought the token last time, you didn't have any contribution points." "None." Wu Fan handed the identity card to the old man and said, "I have been doing tasks for more than a year, and I finally saved enough a few days ago." The old man took a look at Wu Fan's identity card, stared, and whispered, "This contribution value is really enough, it's incredible." The old man looked at Wu Fan with a strange look, and then began to expand the 2 jade slips. After a while, the old man handed the 2 jade slips and the identity card to Wu Fan and said, "If you have nothing to do, you can go, don't disturb me reading." "Yes, disciple, take your leave." Wu Fan bowed and then walked out of the sutra library. A quarter of an hour later, Wu Fan returned to the cave, and after opening the formation, he directly entered the small space. He was ready to retreat. There were two things in this retreat. One was to break through the bottleneck and enter the 10th level of Qi refining. The other was to practice the Heavenly Demon Beast Armor Art and Demon Heaven Fist to the lowest level of success, or even to the highest level of success. In this way, Wu Fan entered a long period of practice. 10 years later in the small space. At this time, Wu Fan was in his bedroom. On the floor of the bedroom, there was a large wooden barrel filled with green slurry. Wu Fan was lying in the barrel, soaking his body in the green liquid. The expression on his face was somewhat ugly, as if he was suffering from some pain. 2 hours later, Wu Fan walked out of the barrel. He stood there, clenched his fists hard, and a smile appeared on his face. In the past 10 years in the small space, Wu Fan has been trying to break through the bottleneck in the first 2 years. With his unremitting efforts and the breakthrough pills given by his master, he finally broke through the last major bottleneck of the Qi training period 2 years later. He has since entered the peak ranks of Qi training and reached the 10th level of Qi training. In the remaining 8 years of the small space, Wu Fan has been practicing the 2 secret techniques of Heavenly Demon Beast Armor Art and Demon Heaven Fist, and these 2 secret techniques have finally been successfully cultivated with his persistent efforts. The success of cultivation so quickly is also thanks to Wu Fan's small space and many spiritual medicines. With the help of the medicine, Wu Fan actually cultivated these 2 secret techniques of Qi training to great success. If he wants to continue to practice in the future, he can only wait until he breaks through the foundation building period and go to the 3rd floor of the Sutra Pavilion to exchange for the second half of the secret techniques. Chapter 100 Uncle Master Xuyao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The hardness of Wu Fan's body is very terrifying now. He has tested it before and found that its hardness is comparable to his previous Hunyuan Diamond Shield. You know, Hunyuan Diamond Shield is a top-grade magic shield. From this, we can see how terrifying his body is. And the strength of his body is also very strong now. In terms of strength alone, if he is given a top-grade magic shield, he can easily tear the shield apart. You can imagine how abnormal his strength is. The fully developed Heavenly Devil Fist was equally terrifying. Wu Fan had a feeling that if he used the power of his physical body and combined it with the Heavenly Devil Fist, he could smash an ordinary top-grade magic shield in a few punches. It was conceivable how terrifying Wu Fan's current combat power was. In the past, if he wanted to defeat a cultivator with a higher cultivation level than him, he could only use the Golden Origin Heavy Light and the Heavenly Luo Extreme Fire. But now it was different. Even if he didn't use the Golden Origin Heavy Light and the Heavenly Luo Extreme Fire, he was confident that he could compete with a cultivator who had reached the great perfection of Qi refining. Not to mention the entire world of immortal cultivation, just take the Qingfeng sect as an example. Wu Fan didn't believe that there would be a cultivator in the Qi refining stage who was stronger than his physical body, including those cultivators in the body refining stage such as Qingsang Peak. There are still 3 months before the inner sect competition. He plans to participate. After he is promoted to a core disciple, he will go to his master and ask for a place to enter the secret realm. The secret realm will be opened in more than half a year. He must go in. Only by going to the secret realm can he collect more precious spiritual medicines, including spiritual medicines for refining foundation pills and several main medicines for longevity pills. Wu Fan walked into the spirit beast room and looked at the little white fox. He found that it was still sleeping, but the breath emanating from the little white fox was amazing. Wu Fan guessed that the little white fox should wake up soon. 1 year later, Wu Fan finally got out of the small space. He looked around his cave and then walked out of the cave. When he came to the outside of the cave, there was a talisman circling and flying above the formation. Wu Fan stretched out his hand and the talisman instantly flew into his hand. Then he crushed the talisman. At the moment when the talisman broke, a voice came into his ears. Wu Fan's eyes turned, and he immediately flew towards his master's courtyard with his flying sword. because his master had just used a sound transmission note to notify him to go there, but he didn't say what it was. A quarter of an hour later, Wu Fan lowered his sword light and landed in his master's courtyard, then raised his legs and walked into the house. When he entered the house, he was suddenly startled, because he saw a room full of people. These people included his master, his uncle Yan Fun, his second brother, third brother, fourth sister, fifth sister, and Yan Fun's eldest disciple Wei Qi. Wu Fan didn't recognize the remaining 11 or 12 people, however. In the main seat in front of him, in addition to his master and Yan Fun's uncle, there was also a middle-aged man. This man was wearing a grey robe, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, fair skin, and a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. He looked extremely handsome, and his whole body was very powerful, like a sharp sword, giving people a sense of oppression. At this time, this man was looking at him. At this moment, Master Li Ning looked at Wu Fan and said, "Xiao Fan, this is your uncle Xuyao, why don't you come over to greet him?" Only then did Wu Fan know that the handsome man was Uncle Xuyao whom he had never seen. It was said that this uncle had been traveling and had not been back for 5 or 6 years. Wu Fan did not dare to neglect him, so he hurried over and bowed with his fists, saying, "Wu Fan, greet Uncle Xuyao." Uncle Xuyao had been watching him, with a smile on his face. He nodded and said, "Not bad, you have already reached the 10th level of qi refining at such a young age, and you are also practicing the art of body refining. There should be no one in the same level who can match you." When Wu Fan heard this, he was shocked. This Uncle Xuyao was so powerful that he could tell at a glance that he practiced the art of body refining. After hearing Xuyao's words, all the other people in the hall looked at Wu Fan, including Master and Uncle Yan Fun, and at this moment, a voice suddenly came from the hall. "Junior brother, have you broken through the 10th level of qi refining?" Wu Fan looked back and saw that it was his 5th senior sister Ru Shui. Wu Fan smiled and nodded at her. At this time, Master Li Ning glared at Ru Shui, as if to say, "You are disrespectful. Didn't you see that there are 2 senior uncles here?" Ru Shui stuck out her tongue, then blinked at Wu Fan and gave him a thumbs up. At this time, Master Li Ning also showed a look of surprise. He carefully looked at his 6th disciple, then nodded and said, "Xiao Fan, not bad. I didn't expect that with your spiritual roots and physique, you actually broke through to the top level of qi refining. It's rare, rare." Master Yan Fan also smiled and said, "I have said that Xiao Fan is not simple. Not only did he break through to the 10th level of qi refining at a young age, but he also has an excellent talent for alchemy." Wu Fan was a little embarrassed by everyone's praise, and could only stand there and keep silent. In addition to Wu Fan's senior brothers and sisters, more than 10 young men and women also showed curiosity about him. Wu Fan didn't know these people, but he could guess that these young men and women must be disciples of Uncle Yan Fun and Uncle Xuyao. At this time, Master Li Ning said, "Xiao Fan, go to your senior brothers and sisters." "Yes, Master." After Wu Fan finished speaking, he walked towards the 2nd senior brother and others, and came to stand next to the 5th senior sister Ru Shui. Li Ning looked around at everyone and said, "Since everyone from our Danding Peak is here, let me tell you why I asked you to come. First of all, one of our 3 foundation building elders, your master and uncle, Xuyao, has returned to the sect and successfully advanced to the middle stage of the foundation building period. This is also a great joy for our Danding Peak. The second thing to say is that the sect competition will begin in 3 months. I hope that our Danding Peak will have another core disciple. I believe some disciples already know why. At present, we only have Wei Qi and Xuehui as core disciples in Danding Peak, and Danding Peak has 3 places to enter the secret realm. So I hope that you will go all out in this competition and try to win a core disciple position. Then our Danding Peak can also send 3 people to the secret realm. You should also know how great the benefits of being able to go to the secret realm are. I won't say more about these. Brother is right, you must go all out to compete for the position of core disciples. Remember it?" Uncle Yan Fan said with a serious look in his eyes. "Disciples will definitely go all out." More than a dozen disciples in the hall said at the same time. Li Ning, Yan Fun, and Xuyao all smiled and nodded. Wu Fan looked at the 11 disciples opposite him. Except for Wei Qi, Wu Fan didn't know the others, but he knew that Uncle Yan Fan had 6 disciples, Uncle Xuyao had 5 disciples, and his master Li Ning should have 6 disciples, but the whereabouts of the eldest brother is still unknown, so there are only 5 disciples left. Among the 11 disciples opposite, through careful observation, Wu Fan found that there was a woman whose cultivation was not lower than Wei Qi. This woman should be Xue Hui mentioned by the master, that is, one of the 2 core disciples of Danding Peak.